Hello everyone, back tuning in to today's video. We're going to have a look at the weather coming week or so in today's video. I think we're going to be seeing weather turning more unsettled over the weekend and into next week. There'll only be a little bit of rain coming up tomorrow, but the weekend and into next week looking particularly unsettled. And I think temperatures will be taking a bit of a plunge as well, cooling down. So pretty cool, pretty unsettled conditions on the way for the weekend and into next week. It will certainly be feeling quite autumnal, I think. Very late with today's video, so just going to very quickly rattle through the announcements. So there's links to articles on all the page that Gaz will visit, have a browse for widgets, and click through the links. You'll be able to go off and read the article. And of course, you go from Gaz Office to where that article is. We get a revenue fee on what you do. There's also video ads, loads of pages which open out within the content. When you watch them, they'll close back up again. Thanks so much for getting involved. Thanks for doing that. So just starting off very quickly with Central England temperature. So far for October, we currently stand at 11.1, an anomaly of 0.2 degrees below average, provisional to the 19th. So very close to the seasonal average. This will probably tick up a little bit over the next day or so in a fairly mild airstream up to the weekend. And it'll probably cool down a bit next week. So overall, I'm not expecting a great deviation from average, actually, for October's Central England temperature. It will be significantly cooler than the past couple of Octobers. Had a couple of very mild Octobers in 2013 and 2014. But I think it'll only be the coolest since around 2012, which was a relatively cool month. And I don't think we'll be deviating too far from the average, actually. The precipitation anomaly is going to be more significant, but I think it will be a significantly drier than average October. Although we will perhaps make up that a little bit next week, just in the closing days of the month. So as I say, we've got some rain coming up even tonight and tomorrow. So this is the GFS precipitation forecast for 6 o'clock in the evening. This evening, heavy rain just starting to approach western Scotland and Ireland by that point. As we go through the night, that's going to spread across Scotland, Northern Ireland and Northern England, bringing some quite heavy rain across many places, not really arriving into the far south and southeast until the morning, but through tomorrow morning, even down in the southeast, the suggestion is there that could see some fairly persistent and quite heavy rain coming right way down across this country. It's been a long time since we've had a band of rain covering the whole country. I think you have to go back a couple of weeks. So, yeah, going to be a pretty wet morning across many parts of the country tomorrow morning. That rain could still be clinging on to the very far southeast up to tomorrow evening, but most places will turn drier and brighter through the course of Wednesday afternoon. So you can see from the GFS temperature and precipitation ensembles that it is turning more unsettled, dealing with the temperatures first of all. So we're going to go a bit above average this week. Going to be in a fairly mild airstream. Over weekend into next week, you see a bit of a dip in the temperatures taking place, although there is a lot of scatter in here. But I think overall we have got a cooling trend there as we go through the weekend and into next week. But maybe more significantly than the temperatures actually is precipitation. So this is tomorrow's rain. Then we go drier for the rest of the week. But as we go into the weekend and then into the start of next week, signs of increasingly unsettled conditions coming through. Some quite big precipitation spikes there, indicating a definite trend to more unsettled conditions for the end of October and into the start of November. The generic charts look like this. This is the GFS for Saturday. We're going to be bringing a weather front into the northwest during the course of Saturday, taking advantage of cloud, quite heavy rain into the northwest. That probably spreads across the country through Saturday evening. Then on Sunday, we probably get some sort of build of pressure there, very transient, and that's been quite cool there. So there could be frost, I would think, on Sunday night into Monday. That could be one to watch out for. As we go through into Monday, that ridge will very quickly be flattened off as this really deep area of low pressure starts to wind itself up in the Atlantic. Now, back when I did the live broadcast on Friday evening, myself and Quanta were looking at this low pressure. I think it's the ECMWF that was really ramping up an area of low pressure for next week, and we sort of said it's probably quite unlikely that it would come off. Actually, it looks like the ECMWF last Friday was probably onto something, and a significant area of low pressure looks like it's going to really wind itself up through the early part of next week. So quite a dramatic change taking place with gales spread across many parts of the country. Also risk some quite heavy rain as well. We go through into Tuesday, and the low pressure going off to the north of Scotland. Weather front is straggling the country, so it'll probably be bound to have heavy rain and strong winds coming down across the country, and then quite cool air following along behind. And then we go into the middle part of next week, and within low pressure and quite cool air, so there'll be showers along the spells of rain, and don't be at all surprised if those showers turn wintry up in the north through the middle part of next week. There could also be a risk of night frost. And then we go through to day 10, which is Friday the 30th of October, and another pretty deep area of low pressure looks like it's heading in. So this really does look like the Atlantic is starting to wind itself up again next week. The Atlantic strikes back could be fairly big theme of next week's weather after a prolonged spell of pretty dormant conditions in the northern Atlantic. It does look as though it's really going to start getting its act together next week with bands of rain and quite strong winds and cool temperatures as well driving in. Now, the ECMWF is very similar, but it's actually colder. So, for Saturday, we are bringing a band of cloud rain down across the country. And then we go into a sunshine and shower scenario for Sunday. This is when the GFS wants to build a ridge through the country. The ECM is saying we'll have showers. Follow the isobars back. They go quite a long way north, so it could be fairly chilly, even with wintry showers in the far north of Scotland. And then we go through to the early part of next week, taking low pressure on a more southerly track. So this will bring heavy rain across England and Wales Monday into Tuesday. But notice this ridge building around Iceland. That has the effect of bringing the air down from the north. That's very cool air coming down from the north. And as we go through the week next week, that low pressure clears away into the North Sea, into Denmark. That's the low pressure that the GFS is winding up into quite a major storm system. It's much further south and not as intense, but it probably brings a lot of heavy rain to the south early next week. And then this high pressure builds in from the north and west. That's got cool air associated with it, so as this high pressure builds in, I think it would turn very cool, maybe cold, next week, and there'd certainly be the risk of some hard overnight frost in the north particularly. Wouldn't necessarily be ruling out chance of wintry showers in the north and east as well. That is a very cool scenario from the ECMWF for next week. We finish up with the high pressure very dominant and the low cut off down across Spain and Portugal. So it's not quite unsettled for next week, but it is colder with a risk of night frost. The GEM, the Canadian, looks like this. Band of cloud and rain comes across the country on Saturday. Back showers on Sunday. Very significant area of low pressure winds itself up into money. So got agreement there from the GFS and the GEM to produce probably quite a significant autumnal storm early next week. Now, I'm not saying it's going to be all that severe, but I do think there could be gales across parts of the country in the west and southwest, possibly even severe gales, and heavy rain sweeping across the country with that as well. The low pressure comes through the country through Tuesday, and we finish up pulling down this very chilly northerly wind as we go into the middle part of next week. And then the high pressure goes up to Scandinavia with these areas of low pressure again trying to come in off the Atlantic. It's all looking a great deal more unsettled and significantly cooler as we go through the course of next week, I think. Not quite sure about that, but the general theme is the same across the three models. They just differ in terms of the exact detail, which is turning a good deal more unsettled with several bands of rain coming in over the next week to 10 days, and those temperatures taking a tumble as we go through the first and middle parts of next week in particular. So CFS V2 for the next month looking like this. These are 500 millibar heights. First week goes from the 20th to the 26th. Ridge of high pressure still more or less in control of the country. Trough of low pressure developing up to the north, but high pressure still mainly in control at 26. As we go through to the final days of October, this is the 27th through to the 2nd of November, we find the low pressure does take over. So the main area of low pressure is around Greenland, but this trough is around Western Europe as well. The jet stream's going like that, so on the cool side of the jet, I've got a trough of low pressure as well. It's going to be cooler and significantly more unsettled as well. The next weekly period, going from the 3rd through to the 9th, a bit of a battle going on here. We've got high pressure building through Scandinavia. got low pressure with this trough out in the central Atlantic. So Atlantic winds are trying to drive in from west. Easterly is trying to come in from the east. We're in a battleground UK situation there. There could be some quite heavy rain, I would think, particularly in the west. Temperature's probably not all that exciting as well. By the time we go through to the final week period, from the 10th through to the 16th of November, the ridge starts to move into the country. Now, it's quite interesting because we've got a lot of northern blocking being signalled here around Scandinavia, going even further north in Scandinavia, actually, but it's also tying in with the Azores high. So quite what the air mass would be with that, I'm not sure. We could be bringing up fairly mild southwesterlies. Would only take a very subtle difference, though, to be bringing in really cold, or certainly really cold for the time of year, sort of east to northeasterly. So I'm not quite sure, actually, what the temperatures do through that middle phase of November on that particular scenario, but it could go either way. It could be very mild with that, or a slight adjustment, and you could start to bring down colder easterlies or northeasterlies. Of course, that's all quite speculative going off to the middle of November, and the main theme for this update is that I think the prolonged dry spell, its days look as though they're numbered, actually, with bands of rain coming through. We've got one coming, got one coming through tonight and tomorrow. After that, it will turn drier for a little while, but over weekend and into next week, more bands of rain coming in, and those temperatures likely to take a tumble as well. So I think going to be feeling very autumnal as we go into next week, particular with night frost, heavy rain, wintry showers potentially in the north as well. Autumn gathers pace. That's it for now. Thanks for watching.